Welcome back for our fifth and final panel, Digital Citizen Engagement. Public sector, local and central government need to realise that their customers or citizens expect quality and speed of service. During the pandemic, the NHS app proved to be an excellent tool, providing information directly to the customer and enabling the customer to respond. To continue the trend, leaders now need to be digital leaders to fully embrace the benefits the internet and apps can bring to their organisations. While this challenge alone needs to be addressed, the customer already expects it. Councils that embrace the digital aid to communicate and provide access for customers to communicate with their organisations have realised savings for some as much as 100,000 net of investment. With staff and skill shortages, apps and AI have a place to aid struggling authorities to provide customers the tools to communicate with the authority, whether that's to report nuisances or to order a bin, and route those requests for actions to relevant departments. However, what more can public sector do to engage with citizens? Is culture still a barrier to progression? And what are the solutions available? Is the cost of living crisis and budget shortages the stoppage? Regardless of the block, public sector needs to engage and deliver, but how? Well, to help us navigate this topic, we have Rob McCarthy, CEO of GOS Interactive, sponsors of this panel. Penny Siddle, Programme Manager and Senior Communications Lead for Digital Programmes at Dorset Council. Helen Coombe, Cabinet Member for Transformation and Digital at the London Borough of Redbridge. And Douglas Sherlaw, Chief Digital Officer for the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities. As always, do feel welcome to use the Q&A tool to take part in our discussion. Ron, let me start with you. What key fundamentals should be considered by public sector organisations when delivering improved digital engagement with citizens?
Thanks, Sue. Really, to me, I think that the sort of core fundamental thing that everybody should be considering is to make sure they focus on the citizen. That's often overlooked. People are looking at redesigning their own processes internally, how they can reshape the organization for more cost efficiencies and that kind of thing. But actually, if you forget the citizen in the bigger picture, then you're always going to be fighting against the implementation. Whereas if you fully embrace the citizen, you work out what the citizen wants and you deliver to what they want. And like you said in your introduction there, that those guys expect it now. So if you can work out what they expect and you can deliver what they expect, then the whole process will go so much easier. And the savings will just kind of fall into place because people will go to the more efficient channels.
Helen, how are you engaging with residents to ensure you're delivering what they need rather than what suits the council?
All right, thank you very much. Well, we're part of the DLUC round 6 of the Local Digital Fund. And so that's part of the work that we're doing about adult social care. So the digital team have already been refreshing our way out of date part on the website of the council website to make it easier about adult social care, how you get in, what kind of journey you've got, the kind of things that you need to find out about. And they're using lessons from both sides to actually make the journeys better for the citizens, because actually, as the gentleman before, I'm sorry, I can't quite see your name, said, what do the citizens need? So they've been talking to people, they've got focus groups, they've been talking to Age UK and all these other people who are experts in their own field about what they need, so that we can provide that information on the council website.
Penny, what have you found to be the biggest barriers for people to get online?
Well, before the pandemic, I think we thought it was skills and motivation. Motivation changed for some people. So some people who said, oh, no, it's not for me, I'm never going to go online. Things changed during the pandemic and they found that they needed to be online. So motivation is something that is important, but does change depending on circumstance. the skills block is a challenge for a lot of people. We think of it as being a problem for older people. We know at the same time that a lot of older people are getting a lot out of being online. So that in itself isn't a game changer. That isn't going to stop them getting online. And sometimes people just need a bit of help to get the courage and the confidence to go online. But during the cost of living crisis, increasingly we've found that not having a device or not having sufficient data is the biggest barrier that we're trying to challenge at the moment. There's also the challenge of whether there is good coverage, and I'm from Dorset, and a lot of Dorset has poor mobile coverage, and some areas have poor fixed broadband coverage as well. So that can also be a barrier.
That's interesting. So it's a range of sort of technical issues, skills issues, people, and slightly overturning the fact that, as you said, that it's not always old people who are reluctant to get online if they see the benefits effectively. Douglas, could you explain what the situation is like in Scotland? Does it replicate exactly what's taking place in the rest of the UK, or is it perhaps because of more rural areas, slightly more difficult to engage people?
I think the connectivity problem is obviously still remains an issue. I mean, I think some areas still don't have 4G, and we're already talking about 5G. So, there is the difficulty of leaving people behind in that respect. So, I guess that's down to the service providers specifically. I think the other issue is actually actual devices. So you're talking there about access to laptops. I think we through the Connecting Scotland campaign, which not campaign, it was set up about 2 years ago. We've delivered notebooks into schools. So children who didn't have devices now have devices. They have access to free data or a certain amount of free data. So that's kind of helped. But I mean, obviously that's the kind of younger part of it. I think, Rob talks about, making things easier. People expect things to work easier. People order things from Amazon, they order things from Sainsbury's, they order things from ASOS, all those kind of online services, and the expectation is therefore higher for us. So, one of the things that we've been working on for the last probably 15 years is a shared recruitment platform for all 32 local authorities to use. And that's something we've been investing a lot of money in. You talk about the investment, from pretty much going from £15 million worth of recruitment advertising down to a system that provides all that online for £500,000 a year. You can see, we are kind of making inroads into those services quite radically. But it's really a question of where to go next. And things move very, very quickly. And we also need to be on top of everything which is happening. So, from a Scottish perspective, I think we've got problems with cities, rural, in terms of connectivity, but we certainly all have the same kind of experience situations as to how we access those services.
There's also the cost of living crisis as well to factor into all of this. And Penny, how can a council afford to help people overcome what may be financial barriers to actually getting online in the first place?
Yes, it's tough. And during the pandemic, organisations like Good Things Foundation were giving grants to organisations like us and many, many others to help people fund devices to give out to residents. And that was great, but it's not an inexhaustible supply of money and devices. We found a way to finance it. We discovered that our devices, working for a local authority, we get new devices every 3 or 4 years as a matter of course. And the old devices were being sent to an organisation which would then recycle and sell on. And we now use the money that we get back from that organisation to fund new devices for the community. And in some cases, we're hoping also to be able to refurbish some of our old devices and give them out where they're appropriate. In some cases, we don't think the devices that we have are appropriate for new people, so that's why we send them off and get the money and buy new ones. It's more cost effective, but in some cases they are. In some cases, some of the devices that we have can be refurbished and given back out to the community. And at the moment, we're getting through the money and the resources faster than it's coming in, but it is helping a lot. That is a source of funding that will continue, and we're looking at whether we could collect in devices from the public, because we've all got old devices sitting in our bottom drawers, right? There's heaps of stuff out there. If we could recycle that and get some income from it, then potentially that might fund new devices for people who really need new devices, not really, really old secondhand ones that have been in our drawers for years. No matter how well they're refurbished, get them the devices that they need to get to cross the digital divide and join the digital world.
Thank you. Helen, what's been the impact of the cost of living crisis for residents and budget shortages for the council, for your council?
Thank you. It's very much the same kind of thing as Penny's just been talking about. We've done a similar sorts of thing. We've just managed to, with old council kit, to get to about 1,000 that we've donated to the. We're partners with Lottie, which is the London Office of Technology and Innovation, and so in a similar thing, so those devices will be available for people. And also, as far as the infrastructure goes, when Douglas was talking about Scotland and Penny about Dorset, you think, well, London, it must be all right. It's not, because actually it's less than 50% of the borough that's got access to, fast full fibre broadband. And so the project that we're on at the moment is going to deliver that kind of broadband to all the social housing that we've got in the borough. And it's also connecting up our main business park as well, which will give them much better connectivity, because that was a bit of a dead spot, even though we are, we're London, but we're East London. We're almost Essex. That is our address. But so it's one of those strange things there. So that's the kind of thing. And also, I think, the cost of living, and as far as the council's going, that actually the easier journey online is for citizens and residents, the more likely they are to do it. And that will actually save the council money, and it will make things much more efficient as well.
And Rob, have you seen any organisations perhaps do some missteps, in trying to engage citizens digitally?
Yeah, I think that's one of the key things really is often they miss the focus. A good example there, when you're talking about like the older technology, for example, occasionally we will hear from our direct customers, not the citizens, that, oh, they need an app. We need to have an app. So, hey, let's run away and buy an app. But I'm sure we've all experienced it when you go to park your car and you look at the machine and it's like, you want app X and you've only got app Y and you need app Z. And, those kind of short-sighted approaches really, really are problematic. Whereas, lightweight web delivery means that you can be backwardly compatible on really, really old devices. They'll be quick, they'll be accessible. So it's things like that where people have assumed this need and not really asked the citizen. And it's the same way with just general interfaces, to make sure they're clean, they're light, they're simple. They don't throw you off to different websites and ask you for different usernames and passwords, which again adds to confusion, the complexity and the cost. If you can get that all streamlined and present all of your information and all of your data through one clean and simple interface. And also you can reuse those digital capabilities within call centers, for example. So if you do have a citizen that one day is using a digital device, but at the next day they are in a black spot or whatever, and all they've got is a can use his voice, then fine, let them call into the call center and let that call center agent use the same digital technology to find out exactly what's going on. We all talked about that Amazon-like experience where you can find out what's going on with your transaction and your interaction at any one time. If you use the same technology, then you have that single view of the customer, and that really does speed up and make that whole digital transformation easier, and the citizen then really benefits from that.
Do you need to change the culture of places, and particularly councils, to deliver these digital solutions? Helen, we'll start with you on that one.
I think so, because what we don't want to do is just to merely replicate all the bits of paper and all those steps that people have always taken and just lump that and put that into the digital space. Because actually what they need to do is, what does the customer, the citizen need? How can we get to that? How can we make it as easy as possible for the customer and as efficient as possible for the people inside the council? So it is going to actually necessitate different ways of working, leaving some things behind, embracing new things. And, I think there's a lot of opportunity out there, but sometimes you have to encourage people, and sometimes they need to sort of be part of it to actually see the improvements.
And Douglas, have you found, you said you're working across 32 different areas. Have you seen any particular efficiencies so far in this digital transformation?
Well, I think one of the kind of key aspects, we've got kind of two organisations who work alongside, who are really going to work very closely with. One is the Improvement Service, who are looking at those kind of transactional and service elements across councils. But also we've got what we call the Local Government Digital Office as well. And what they largely will do is basically corral people into a certain way of going forward with certain solutions. So rather than we all kind of looking at all our different solutions out there, we decide what the best ones to use are and how well they will interoperate with other systems. So we don't have a multitude of systems that are just disparate and potentially costly as well. Because I think, looking at it from my perspective and the recruitment website, which covers local government in Scotland, we have such a small team where we can actually respond to councils' needs quite quickly, configure things in the system quickly, and by having that coalescing around this one particular issue, we can bring lots of different HR people into the problem, into the process. But I think one of the things we were talking there earlier on was we do need to, we focus on the candidate experience first and foremost. And to do that, we need to get into the mind of what their experience currently is. So that design element is very crucial. And, I think the problem that Helen kind of pointed out there is the biggest problem is, digital transformation is taking a paper process and making it digital. No, it's not. It's looking at the actual process that you currently go through at the moment and how you make it more efficient. So yeah, we're doing a lot of things, and it's really kind of making sure that the knowledge kind of stays within local government. When I say stays within local government, we're happy to share it. It's more that we have this knowledge, and we just should be building on it, and we should be sharing it with as many people who want to find out about it. So that's the conduit that the local government digital office kind of is trying to achieve. So yeah, a lot of things going on. I can't just focus on one at the moment. But yes, it is all happening up here. I have to say that, because we're all struggling with budgets, so it's all about making best use of the money that's available, and pooling those resources seems to be the best way to do that.
And as we're talking about budget, Rob, how do you think that public sector organisations, that are lacking in digital skills and insufficient digital transformation funding improve then and refine their digital citizen experience?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the topics I think of today that the lack of digital skills, the cost of developers and that kind of thing, and it's where things like software as a service, low code, no code capability comes into play, because you can really lower the barrier to entry for people to actually digitize processes and services. So you don't need hardcore developers necessarily to build a digital process. You need to be engaging with the citizen, working out what they want, and if you can use things like Excel and Word, then you've probably got all the skills you need, for example, to be building forms and be building processes. So one of the things that we try and do is try and lower that barrier to entry so that anybody can get engaged in the digitization of their organization. Because like you say, from a cultural perspective, it's the people that know what this process is supposed to do are the people that are actually working within that process. And sometimes if you get consultants flown in, they'll miss some of the essence of the important parts of that process, where the people who are on the ground will understand it and understand the reasons why some of these things are being done. And that has to be wrapped in. So if you can get them engaged in that delivery, then that's really, really going to benefit. And I think the best way of doing that is software as a service and low code and no code tools to really sort of speed that up.
And you mentioned how the common misconception is about just transferring everything that's on paper to digital. I mean, how do organizations sort of plan this move from legacy technology? Is there a sort of an optimal way of actually doing this?
It often depends on the organization and how mature they are. So some organizations already have ideas about how they want to transform themselves. Other ones expect that to be discovered as part and parcel of the process. So you really have to approach each case uniquely to find out what the maturity of the organization is and start from that particular point. I think the other thing that you need to do is working out what legacy technology is blocking you from doing things. There's a lot of aspiration of transformation that wants to happen, but they have their data, for example, locked up in a system that they're not able to get access to. So there's some old sort of legacy suppliers who will charge you a lot of money to get access to your APIs or the data. So when you're going through a procurement process, making sure you have that as part of the procurement, because often that's the time you have leverage over suppliers. So having full and unfettered access to your data and to the APIs that give you access to that data really then enables you to be much more innovative when you do the transformation projects, because the software might give you a small part of the piece, but you need to connect that data right the way through the entire process in order to make it work, in which case you need free access to that data to really sort of put the icing on the cake for that one.
Oh, I heard a sort of murmur of approval there from one of the panelists, and I couldn't quite see who it was. Did somebody want to pick up on that?
Well, yes. So actually, we've had things before in the past, and then actually, having used them, we think, well, this needs tweaking here, it needs tweaking here. This is actually, now we've used it, we realise there's something else that we actually need. And then when you go back for that extra bit, or to actually get hold of the data to churn it to find out other answers, then there's a big cost involved in it, which is off-putting.
Penny, we've heard just touched upon skills in this session. In terms of Dorset businesses, what digital skills do they lack, and are they no different to any other business across the UK, or are they specific to your area?
Yes, so our local enterprise partnership has just done a survey called the Local Skills Improvement Plan survey to find out what our businesses do need, and broken it down by sector to find out what digital skills they need. And it does vary from sector to sector, and the sectors that are strong in Dorset, you might think it's all agriculture and tourism, but actually advanced manufacturing is one of our strongest sectors, and defence as well. So it does vary by sector, What is common across all sectors is that there's a lack of mid-level skills. So big organisations like Dorset, like our local councils and health authorities, provide training for all of us. So as soon as Microsoft brings out some new feature for Teams, we all learn about it, or some of our colleagues learn about it, and they cascade the knowledge down. But small businesses don't have that ability, and there is a hidden middle. The Future.now organisation has done a report into the skills that are lacking in the middle of the business workforce, and so I think that's common to all industries, whereas for some particular industries it's coding, or it's AI, or it's VR, or it's data awareness. It might be different for different areas.
And you mentioned Future.now. Does this relate to the Festival of the Future?
Oh no, that's a different thing.
Right.
That's a totally different thing. Future.now is a national organisation which investigates workforce digital skills. The Festival of the Future is a Dorset thing, which celebrates Dorset as a digital place. So people don't get stuck in the idea that it's all about Thomas Hardy and dinosaurs on the Jurassic coast. But actually, we have a lot of creative digital industries and exciting innovation going on here. And the festival is something that we run every year in October, or have been for the last 3 years anyway, to celebrate the great things and innovation that's going on in Dorset Council, but across the whole of the Dorset area, the local businesses as well, in Health Authority, and our partners in the voluntary sector. And it's great. It brings people together and celebrates what we achieve as an area.
Great. So actually some overlap in ambition, shall we say. Douglas, current GDPR already makes the sharing of data quite challenging. So should we be lobbying for change to sort of take control of it really before the issue takes hold, rather than always having to react after there's a problem?
Yeah, I think we just need to be more clever with the data that we have and how we use it. There are certain things that we're trying to achieve through. We have something up here called My Account, which allows people to log into customer and council services using one login. That obviously relates to one login, which the UK government are kind of looking to log out or to use soon as well. And we've also got the Scottish Digital Identity Service as well in place. So that contains a lot of personal and sensitive data within it. And I just think we could be doing more with the data that we have, that we anonymize. And I know somebody was speaking about AI earlier on, and just a quick instance that I was reading an article last week about the World Bank and how they deliver a lot of policy articles throughout the year, and they took they investigated to find out how many people actually downloading these documents and reading them, and it was quite surprising that some of the numbers were in single figures. So they were suggesting that there might be answers to a lot of our problems within documents that are not being read. So equally, if there's answers in a lot of documents that are not being read, there might be a lot of answers within the data that we're not actively analysing. So yeah, it's something that we probably need to work together on and try and work with the ICO to see how best that we can obviously share data in an anonymized format, but actually deliver something that's better for everyone.
And staying with AI, Rob, how can AI, help deliver this improved citizen engagement and equally then drive more automation and effectively savings as well for organizations?
Yeah, there's been a recent sort of step change in what AI is capable of. The transformer models that have come along. I think everyone's probably played with ChatGPT by now. They are really, really great at understanding context, summarization, and producing text. So a good example of sort of how you can use data within a GDPR compliant manner is, if somebody's coming along and saying, what benefits am I entitled to? And if you just ask that out of the blue to a council website or even an untrained AI model, it doesn't have the context to know about it. But if you can take, that my account, that my account approach, where we can take all of the transactions from the citizen that they've done in the past, we can look at the user of this, so the user that's using it, to say, well, you're single, you're taking some sort of winter fuel allowance, you don't have any children, for example. That gives us great context. Then we can look at the content from the website and say, well, this is the current policies and procedures to do with benefits. And if you put all that into one of the new sort of generative AI models, they can answer that question really, really easy and really specifically, because they can take all that data, summarize it down, and actually come up with the answer that the citizen wants without any human interaction. Well, mostly. At the moment, there's still a lot of danger about some of the AI models and the fact they can hallucinate. But if you can confine their context and you can confine their ability to imagine things, then they're actually really, really, really good at answering those kind of questions.
All right. It sounds like we have a bit of a party line on in the background going there somewhere. Actually, Rob, while we're on AI as well, do you think there is a pitfall, potential pitfall for some people believing that AI is this silver bullet when it comes to delivering digital services?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's still very, very new and very early on. It's got significant risk. Like I mentioned, the hallucinations, for example. The generative models, they're probabilistic, which means that if you ask it a question, it'll give you an answer. And if you ask it the same question, unlike most computers, where it would always give you back the same answer, it won't. It will generate a new answer. So these new AI models are giving us a whole new range of interesting sort of problems that we've never actually seen before. So people's assumptions about where computers tend to fail are now completely wrong. They also open up like another attack vector. People have been talking about prompt injection attacks, where people have been conning the AI into sort of revealing more data than they should. And that directly relates back to things like PII and GDPR breaches and that kind of stuff. So you really have to be careful at the moment. It's probably a very good idea to put the human in the loop. So if you're going to use AI, try and get a human in the loop in the early days until you're actually confident that these AIs aren't going to be compromising what you're trying to achieve.
And finally, for anyone who wants to answer this question, or several can if you want, are there any particular systems that you think would benefit from a central solution and supported across the UK? Obviously, Douglas is using a solution across certain, a number of those regions across Scotland, and that's obviously working. But are there other potential areas there that would work across the UK?
I don't mind stepping into that one if other people.
Yeah, there was a resounding silence there. I wasn't expecting that.
So, I mean, it's interesting because Central Gov are standing up some really good low-level services that we ourselves are utilising. So things like GDS Notify, GDS Pay, for example, where there's been an awful lot of work that have been sort of repeated over and over and over again. So within our platform, we have about 12 or 13 ways of authenticating a payment, because all of the local authorities have gone out and bought their own payment processing system. That's an awful lot of software that you have to maintain over its lifestyle. Whereas if you've got a central service that everyone goes, let's just adopt this as a platform, it's got open APIs, then from our perspective, it's like, great, let's just utilize that because it makes everyone's lives easier. So there are definitely some core services that you can build on top of. Maybe whether they should be exposed to the citizen or not is up for questions, and how you personalize that to the citizen. Citizens don't understand the difference between local gov and central gov often. To them, it's just government. It really is. So I'll let somebody else have a go on that one.
Yeah, I'll just kind of clarify. We also use gov.notify for. It's a really kind of pretty decent service. It's a free service that we can use. So sending out emails, we don't have to get Amazon to do that or buy a particular mail out to do that. We get a certain amount of SMS for free as well, but it can also generate actual hard copy letters too. So, and it's all pretty much free. up to a certain point. So yeah, I mean, those services I can encourage everyone to use where possible.
Well, thank you very much to my final panelists of the day, Rob, Penny, Helen, and Douglas. A very strong conversation to end on, so thank you. And to everyone who's taken part today. We've covered a whole range of challenges, opportunities, and solutions as we discussed public sector digital transformation alongside the digital roadmap. Whether you are one of our many excellent panelists who've been with us today, or if you're part of our audience who's been sending in questions, a big thank you from the team here at PSE-365. Thank you also to our fantastic partners without whom events like this wouldn't take place. Our next event on highways is on the 14th of June, so do please share this with your colleagues, as we'd love to welcome more new faces to the platform. Today's event was CPD certified, with 1 CPD point earned for every hour of live content watched. If you'd like your CPD certificate, please email events@cognitivepublishing.com. From me and everyone else at PSE 365, thank you for being a great audience. I hope you enjoyed the conversations and do enjoy the rest of your day.